Hi, today we're going to configure up NTP in the BAM and also BDS. I'm going to start with the BAM. We're already logged in. I'm going to click Administration, and then we'll select Service Configuration. And the service type we're going to pull down is NTP. And then we are going to add in 2 IP addresses. And I'm going to leave at the defaults. And then the 127.1.0 is the default, so I'm going to remove that. And then we'll click Update, and the changes will be pushed to the BAM immediately. Next up, we're going to configure BDS1 in this case. I've already selected the server. We're going to do the chevron pull down, click Service Configuration, and also select NTP from it. And by default, it has the BAM, so we're going to leave it there, and we're also going to add the same IP addresses in again. And then I'm going to click Update. And to change, and to do the quick changes here, all we have to do is from a command line, just to verify it, it's an NTPQ-P, and we will see that they are immediately pushed out as soon as we click Update. And Ian is going to discuss NTP troubleshooting.
Okay, thank you, Gary. What I'm going to go through now is some of the things that could go wrong with NTP. Gary has shown you a very healthy NTP setup there with no issues. Okay, but this server is not quite so healthy. Now, in order to save time, I've set up a number of things that could be wrong on this one server rather than demonstrating it on separate servers. You would normally expect probably not to have all of these things go wrong at the same time. But I'm going to go through just a few things. There's plenty of other things that could go wrong, but just a few basic things that could go wrong. So first of all, we run the NTP Q command, and we list our peers. Now, you may have noticed in Gary's example that one of the servers had a star next to it. One of the NTP servers had a star next to it in the first column. There will always be a maximum of 1. If you don't see any, then that is an indication that your server may not be synchronizing properly with NTP. So always check that there is one of those. Yeah? Now, as I say, I've set up this server so it's got a couple of problems. If we look at this refid stands for reference ID, but when it first starts up and starts to communicate with this NTP server, it will be showing .init dot. If it stays like that for a period of time, and you'll also note that it's showing it at stratum 16, yeah, it is likely that your NTP server is not reachable. So most likely a network problem, a firewall problem, or something like that. Another thing to look out for is something called false tickers. These are identified with an X in the first column. Unfortunately, I can't actually demonstrate that because it's very difficult to set that up in a lab. This is when the clock is drifting at different rates or not ticking correctly or is vastly off from the other servers that you have configured. Talking of the number of other servers that we have configured, what is the correct number? The correct number is not absolute, but you need a minimum of more than 2 for best practices. So the best practice is to have 3 or more. The problem with that is if you have 1 or more be unreachable or go bad on you, yeah, you get back to only having 2. So the real minimum, as shown here, is really 4. However, even in this case, you know, we've had 2 failures and we're back to 2. So you need to consider, if possible, having more than 4 servers. One other thing I would like to cover here is just how far out you can be. If your machine is more than 5 minutes outside of your Windows Active Directory service, more than 5 minutes offset, you will get bad time errors and GSS-TSIG issues. Should it be more than 10 minutes offset from your NTP sources, then NTP will refuse to synchronize. So keep an eye on this offset column. We can see it here. Yeah. Now bear in mind that those numbers are not in seconds, but are in milliseconds. So that's just a few things that could go wrong with NTP, but I have seen these issues many times out there in the field.